Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of GnWC Weekly, the Game and Wrestling Connection. I'm the Duke, and I'm joined by my good buddy...
Jehovah's Witness.
What?
Yes.
What?
Can I interest you in a timeshare, my friend?
That's not how this works.
I'm pretty sure that's what they do. They sell timeshares.
So, this happened to my dad one time, and my dad worked out of town about 4 to 5 days a week, and so he would drive through the night to get home, like on Thursday nights / Friday mornings. So we would be off to school on Friday morning. He would be sleeping in to try to catch up from his night of driving, and he got that fateful ring of the doorbell, knock on the door one Friday morning, and someone wanted to, whatever, proselytize to him.
Jehovahtize him.
Yeah, whatever. And so
I didn't know what they do, but that's what they do.
Yeah, do what they do. And, he comes to the door in his boxers because apparently the person was extremely persistent and saw, well, there's a car in the driveway, so I'm just going to keep knocking or ringing, whatever it was at the time. So anyway, he comes to the door in his boxer briefs or boxers, and the guy's like, so what do you got going on in there? And he's just like, it's an orgy. He was so mad. He's just like, I have to say something to make this person go away. Anyway, but I'm the Duke. He's the Larry. And yes, we're getting this out late just because holiday week, we didn't get together on Wednesday because I had stuff going on. And then Thursday was Thanksgiving for the U.S. folks that we are. And then, here it is, Saturday. That's when we're doing this, Saturday the 26th. So let's see how fast Duke gets it up. He decides to get things up in time for Raw. So that means it's going to be tonight or tomorrow. Let's see what happens, Larry. What you got going
on? Not much. You want to talk about the weekend, the back-to-back special events?
So much wrestling.
I know it was so much wrestling, and you did the same thing I did, is I couldn't sustain watching them as it went on the air. I actually had to take a break and say, hey, listen, I don't want to watch wrestling tonight. We'll DVR the show. We'll watch it, watch NXT on the network at a later date. And that's what we did. And I actually watched them today. In fact, I was excited enough to watch Raw after Survivor Series with the way things ended, and because I thought Survivor Series was really good.
Yeah, I did too. I was surprised.
And I also thought NXT TakeOver Toronto was really good.
Yep.
So it was a rare back-to-back. NXT is really never not good, but it was rare back-to-back, like WWE's main event, main roster, followed it up with something that really, in all honesty, it was silly. It was, as we talked about last week, it was non-canon almost in terms of why is Raw fighting SmackDown exactly? But they sustained storylines between the brands, like within each brand,
yeah.
And then they just kind of like forcefully made them fight each other. So every match kind of fit the same template of, strange bedfellows and people turning on each other or walking out on each other or not helping each other. So it was kind of redundant, but in that bubble we like to talk about, I thought every match went off well. In that last match, the main event, the one thing we didn't want to see is like a 20-minute match between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Well, all they did was suplex and spear and punch each other, and everyone kicked out of everyone's finisher, and it was like the first person to hit the finisher 4 times wins the match, which has been like the standard Brock Lesnar template for like a long time. And I'm okay without how that ended. It's stupid, yes. But is it really stupid, Duke?
No, I thought it was the perfect booking decision, personally. And, it seemed half of fans were like, oh, God, well, now that rub that Brock was supposed to give someone for the past 2.5 years, now that's totally ruined. Oh,
do you know what Brock Lesnar really cares about? What rub he really cares about? It's that rub, that cream that the bankers use to put on their fingers while they count bills.
Yeah.
That's the rub he likes.
Yeah.
And he got paid.
Yeah.
Believe me, he got paid for that. And because he's got a brand. He's got the UFC thing. He's got a brand, and him losing in that sort of fashion, it kind of diminishes his brand, but at the same time, not really, because it wasn't like a 30-minute, 60-minute Iron Man match that he lost where someone looked better than him. Someone in the legitimate fighting world caught him off guard.
Yeah. And
guess
he
lost. And that happens.
That happens all the time in major fights. Major fights.
Orndorff laid out Vader backstage.
Well, yeah, but
things happen.
But let's talk about, quote unquote real fights, boxing, UFC. Yeah. You have fights that will have like a year long, not months, a year long build up. Some dude's coming back. Some guy, this, that, and the other is happening. How about Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson? Years and years ago. Of course, that's out of the age range of anyone who would be listening to this show, most likely. But guess what? Buster Douglas is just this rando that comes in and knocks Mike Tyson off his rocker out of nowhere. And what just happened? And then you have year-long builds for this big mouth kid who's going to destroy someone in a fight, and then he ends up doing it. And it happens in the first round of a UFC fight. I mean, and UFC fights, they're what? Are they 2 or 3 minutes? The rounds.
I think they're 5-minute rounds.
Oh, they're 5-minute rounds? Okay, so
maybe even longer.
But still, in under 5 minutes, the thing's over, and it's been a year-long build for this thing. So it happens in real fights, and so I don't like it, I'm not going to use the term that people typically use, but a lot of wrestling fans, serious wrestling fans, want more reality in wrestling. But then when you get something that happens in the real world, there's so many people who can't handle it and get so mad and start talking about all the fantasy crap, like the rub that Brock's supposed to give someone after beating the Streak 2.5 years ago. I mean, come on. Like the whole Taker storyline last year was supposed to just sort of put that to rest, especially with Taker starting their whole feud off with streaks are made to be broken. I mean, it's done. It's over. And now it's really over, and we don't have to worry about that anymore, which is nice. So, it opens up a lot. I've heard several people say this. A popular wrestling podcast, the guy mentioned, hey, now Brock's a beatable guy. He's not this guy who just comes in, suplexes people all over the place, takes 7 finishers, and then gets up, does his finisher, and wins. He's a guy that, now Kevin Owens can come out and make fun of him for losing in 1 minute and 26 seconds. And you can start building a feud with, your master trash talker and Kevin Owens, and Brock Lesnar, still the beast. So, yeah, anyway. I'm not saying that match is coming, but I'm just saying that's an example.
That brings up a good point, because now that he has been beaten, he doesn't have to be the guy who seeks out a target anymore. He can naturally gain a target by somebody just poking fun at him.
Yeah.
They don't have to poke the bear. They just can poke fun on his flaw, which is losing. The bad side of this is that, and it's kind of a good side as well, is part-timers be part-timers. Goldberg's next appearance is going to be in the Royal Rumble. Lesnar may be in the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? It's like, well, so we may extend this feud through other things, and they're the part-timers that we complain about, not taking other people's spots and, not being around all the time to continue storylines. And, we might have that situation drag on through Royal Rumble, and then whatever either guy does towards WrestleMania, if they're even in WrestleMania. Gotta believe Lesnar's in WrestleMania, maybe not Goldberg, but that remains to be seen. But I have nothing except for the fact that it was spoiled for me, but that's on me for not watching it live. That it's shocking. And you know what else, man? We can't talk about, hey, let's look at the clock. It's 10:50 at night. I guess they're going to go home now in this match. We can't talk about the fact that, hey, it's the network. They're always going to go overtime. So it's going to end after 11 o'clock. This was done at, and then we're talking Eastern time. This was done at 10:30 Eastern time. They went off the air a half an hour before they're normally scheduled to go off. And even like lately, they've been going off after that 11 o'clock hour. Clock watching used to be big for me back in the day of main events. You know, you knew the pay-per-view had to go off the air at 11 o'clock. And you look at the clock and it's, 11:53 and you're like, all right, well, it's going to be over soon. So that kind of brings that element into play now. You don't really know when the match is going to end until it ends. And also the fact that, hey, listen, the main event doesn't necessarily need to be the longest match ever, as long as it's compact and it makes sense and it's not like really, because I don't think this insulted the fans' intelligence. I think this just brought in a whole shock and awe sense of realism to a what should be a combat martial art MMA type of sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless of that match, let's just stick to Survivor Series for a moment.
Okay.
What is like the one thing that happened that you really loved in Survivor Series?
How about an hour-long men's Survivor Series match that just was like loaded with not just, I know you said one thing, but it was really that whole match, because
that's fine. That's one thing.
That whole match was just, I mean, it was everything from nostalgia to like bringing certain stories full circle, like with Ellsworth and Strowman, which was amazing.
Comedy within that as well.
And comedy with that too. Yeah. And then the Shield reunion and the, AJ and Dean's feud continuing and only getting hotter because of it. It's just, man, I can't.
That match on every level was really good. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about, let's not talk about it, but let's mention Shane McMahon doing that coast-to-coast spear.
Yeah.
And almost dying.
You know what I mean? Both of them potentially almost dying. I mean, if you watch it back, Roman spiked himself probably worse than Edge did off the ladder that time with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and not they collided heads too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
not only did they hit the mat, but they collided heads. I think mine stems from that match as well. But it's more the sense of, hey, this is what I said a couple months ago. Bray Wyatt loses, Ziggler loses, because there's going to be big things on the horizon for both of them in 2017.
Yeah, you did call it.
And I think that with Luke Harper beating Kane defeated Luke Harper, but with Luke Harper standing tall with Orton and Bray Wyatt being the sole survivors, Duke.
Yes. Soul S-O-L-E
survivers
comes from the same word as solo, which means one person. Survivors.
Being from that being the winners of that match and standing tall to basically not end the pay-per-view, but basically end the Survivor Series portion of the pay-per-view. Yeah, and then you had the feature match thereafter. It's a sign of things to come. And on SmackDown, we're probably not going to get to it, so I'll just mention it here really quick. Them interrupting American Alpha's celebration.
Very cool.
And because you know what? You have all those tag teams, and this is what I talked about last week too. SmackDown has all those tag teams, right?
Yep.
None of them matter.
Right.
None of them matter so much that you've got to bring in Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton to fight American Alpha.
Right.
So like Revival is needed, but in lieu of Revival ever getting there, even if they even get there, because NXT still might need them as a tag team, probably not, but they're not ready, I guess, for the main roster this week. In lieu of that, you have 6 other tag teams, but Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton are going to be the tag team that fight American Alpha. And I would have to assume do something to American Alpha again to then move on to TLC to fight. And let's not mention the fact that there's been an absence of tables on SmackDown. We have chairs, we have ladders. There's been an absence of tables.
Yeah.
So I expect Bray Wyatt and Orton to do something table related to American Alpha to set them up to fight Beauty and the Man Beast at TLC. But that's a little bit of SmackDown. What about NXT TakeOver Toronto? as a whole, it was pretty good. But that's NXT for you. You know what I mean? It's like you're not sick of the feuds because every single time people wrestle, it's unique, more or less, on a special show.
And you haven't necessarily seen them, well, that's what you mean by unique. You haven't seen them fight over and over and over and over.
And we've seen DIY and Revival fight. We've seen Joe and Nakamura fight. But this is like, what, the second time each of them fought on TV? So it's not like it's long and dragged out. They haven't been having all these special combination matches leading up to the event. To where you see him in the ring over and over and over again. You want to talk about shocking endings. I would have bet 100% odds that Nakamura would have won.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we called for sure. And we were fully confident that it was happening.
Why do you think they let Joe win? Business-wise, let's say.
Okay, business-wise, knowing what I know now,
yes.
It's the Japan show.
Okay.
To have the returning hero, you have Nakamura show up and finally knock Joe off, and maybe they even do something to. Well, I believe that's actually already been advertised as a cage match. So that's it.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's already
just like Balor and and Owens were the ladder match.
Yeah, and by the way,
were they? Were they? No, they weren't. That was a regular match. Ladder match was Brooklyn. That was just a regular match in Osaka, right? Beast and East.
Yeah.
Their ladder match was Brooklyn, I think.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won it. But this is going back to something people say about the main roster and what we said about Hell in a Cell. Gimmick matches in NXT are blow-off matches. Sasha versus Bayley, Iron Man match. When has Sasha versus Bayley happened since then? Mainly in NXT. Has it happened? Has that match happened again? Even though there were rumors that there was going to be a third match.
No. I mean, to like the Devil Advocate's point, Sasha was already main roster established.
I know that.
At the time.
Okay,
you know what I mean. So
that's true.
But I get, we also had Owens was also main roster established talent after the ladder match. The only things are there were 2 out of 3 falls matches with with DIY and Revival. I can't remember any other like gimmicky matches though.
Joe and Balor. And Balor wasn't technically up yet. Joe and Balor was a cage match.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was his swan song, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it wasn't official. Like, I mean, there was nothing. It was called NXT Takeover the End.
Yeah, but after every, I'm just playing a little bit devil's advocate because I agree with you. They mean something,
right?
But after every single one of those gimmicky stipulation matches, one of the losing party in all those matches never existed on the roster anymore. So there was never an opportunity to bring up another match. It's not like they would blow up. Like, this is what we complain about in the main roster. There's a blow-off match, but yet both parties still exist in the same locker room on the same talent pool. So it's like, all right, well, they work well together. Let's put them together again.
Yeah, but
that's the staleness of it.
No, that's true. But I guess my point is there is absolute finality to gimmick matches in NXT. And yes, most of the examples have been someone is someone has already moved up, but in the case of Balor and Joe, Balor had not technically moved up yet. There was no, he had not been drafted or
according to
the
public.
Yeah, according to that's what I mean.
Yeah,
on TV, he wasn't gone yet. So I have a feeling that, going back to your question, the business decision is we're going to drop this back to Joe for a second and let him be, the cocky heel a little bit longer and actually have a prize to show that he was the that won it for him. And then we're going to have Nakamura win it in Japan, returning to Japan for the big Japan show, win it in a cage, and then Joe will be done.
So, like, Nakamura was 100% favorite to win the match last Saturday.
Yeah.
He's going to probably be like a 250% favorite to win the match in Japan. You know what I mean? If we're going to put stack one odds against the others. It doesn't make, like, I hate when they do that because it just like puts it out there and says that this is an absolute guarantee, like Finn Balor returning to Japan and stuff like that. It's not an absolute guarantee, really, but at the same time, it's like I hate when they make you. Yeah, and how about Joe beating Balor in a house show?
Yeah.
So the house show titles never change. Oh my God, it just had something just happened.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that also is technically a house show because I don't think it's televised, is it?
Oh, yeah, it may not be. Hopefully they actually record it this time though.
Yeah, well, I mean, they recorded the other one, but I hope they record. Well, they're doing a TV taping from over there as well, so there'll be recordings.
Yeah, that's true.
But like, I hate when I hate having to read into things. Like, you tape a football game and then or a soccer match, because this actually happens. Be like, oh, did you watch the Manchester United game? No, I taped it. Don't say anything. Oh, okay. I think you'll really enjoy it. Oh, well, why would you even say like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but man, pay attention to that penalty kick. Well, I mean, now, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but Nakamura is returning to Japan for the title on the line. Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's like guaranteed he's going to win
in a cage,
but it's not like I'm like, if he loses, I guess I'm kind of shocked, but at the same time, I'm more questioning why the hell they even did that in the beginning if they're just going to let Joe win anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So it's like, well, I hate when they give us
it kind of gives it away, but
but you never know. And that's what NXT has been good with. They don't overdo it. Nothing goes 50-50 when you think it goes the other way. When it's going one way, it probably goes that one way 85% of the time. But they throw those things in there, and twice they hit us with Joe. Once they hit us with the Revival becoming 2-time tag team champions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Asuka beating Bayley, I guess that's not huge, but we didn't think Bayley was going out like that, losing to Asuka the title at that point in time. So that's pretty good. Overall, it was a good show. I mean, like, you couldn't go wrong with opening it with Bobby Roode and Ty Dillinger, though.
No,
I mean, it was just friggin'
glorious,
fantastic. Yeah, I guess it was glorious. I hate saying that now because of certain people. Yeah, certain people I dislike just say it out of everything's glorious, and I'm just like, you know what? Just shut up, dude. But it certainly was. It certainly was glorious because it's just like, you have that crowd reaction, and you're in the same building. And I remember turning to my family when we're watching that match, and I'm like, this is the same building, and probably for the most part the same crowd that bought tickets for both events. Probably, like, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be over 50% were there for NXT and then stayed the next night for Survivor Series. You probably made a day out of it. I'm like, this crowd's not going to be that electric at all. And, who is Bobby Roode and Ty Dillinger if you ask the casual WWE fan? They may know Roode from TNA back when they used to watch TNA, but they don't know Dillinger from a hole in the wall. If they one of those fans that, avoid NXT or anything that's not Monday Night Raw. But that crowd was hot, electric.
Hey, why is Stan on NXT? What's going on?
Why is the crowd chanting 10 on a Survivor Series match between tag teams? Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because there was a guy in NXT the day before who the fans love,
who they saddled with a ridiculous gimmick, and it's so over that it's taking over wrestling.
And he got it that way, all credit to him. And the same thing, I was watching SmackDown today recorded from Tuesday, and I'm watching Jason Jordan. I'm like, man, this guy was a nothing. This guy was boring. This guy was Ty Dillinger's tag team partner, and neither of them had any charisma.
Yeah.
Like, they were absolutely dreadful to watch. And whenever they were out there, they were like, okay, well, this team's going to lose. There was no excitement about them. Then you're just like going to wish them well in their future endeavors. Well, imagine
they are on fire now.
Imagine what some booking for the right people and putting people in the right roles and letting them do a little bit, letting them showcase a little bit of emotion, because that's what's missing in a lot of things. It's emotion.
Yeah.
Charisma, letting people be people and not just fitting Becky Lynch under this role of a dancing leprechaun.
Yeah.
Well, how about we take that role away from her and let her be Becky Lynch? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Now the fans love her. Well, why did that work? Because you gave her the outlet to be emotional and have charisma instead of just saying, you're a leprechaun, you dance, go.
You're from Ireland. That means you dance like Lucky, the cereal mascot.
Does the cereal mascot dance? By the way, I don't think
I
I
don't
think
know.
that's Mortimer J. Frog or whatever his name is from the
sorry.
WB.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mixed metaphor or something.
That's just you just grasping at everything that was green at one time. You're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, two tremendous shows, and we can actually move on to Raw if you'd like to. And
I mean, shout out to DIY and the Revival. Unbelievable match. Like,
I did want to say that.
Unrealistically good match. Like, just like the Revival is such a beautiful name for these guys because, man, they really do. They make everyone they're in a match with, win or lose, they make everyone they're in a match with look like $1 million, look like the biggest baby faces that have ever been in wrestling. And yeah, just amazing. And the way they went out, like trying to keep, I'll never let go, the I'll never let go spot of trying to keep each other from
the whole
tapping.
cheating spot, the Hart Foundation shout out, the each team doing each other's or trying to do each other's finishing moves.
Yep.
To the double pin, let's not tap out, like Thelma and Louise Unity kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they just broke. Revival, I said this before, they look like the most boring tag team ever. You're going to take two guys, you're going to make them old school, and you're going to expect the fans to enjoy their matches? No, it's not going to happen. That doesn't work in this day and age. Why the hell is that working in this day and age? You look back and you're like, oh my God, American Alpha's so good. Well, the Revival were in that match. And then you had this match, the Revival were in, that was equally as good. And both those American Alpha matches were spectacular. Even the Vaudevillains Revival match. It's like, well, looking at them, like taking a trading card out of a pack of, like eating the gum and then looking through the pack of cards and you got a Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder card. And you're like, God, these guys are so boring. But they're not.
They're not.
They're like the opposite. They're like the best.
They're what's great about wrestling. They are what has been great about wrestling for decades, and just somehow coming out of nowhere.
And tag team, somebody in that NXT, and I don't know if it was Dusty that started it, but somebody in that NXT locker room, someone with a voice and experience and history, created this new tag team division. It's no different than the old tag team division, except they're putting like importance in the tag team division.
Yeah.
And we saw it with the Vaudevillains. We saw it with American Alpha, with the Revival. I mean, kind of the Ascension, but I think it started a little bit after the Ascension, a little bit after the Lucha Dragons, because that was like a, you can kind of divide NXT's history from like, I don't know, like
those were sort of the gimmick guys. You had
those were like that was like the WWE manufactured NXT. Sure. Where it was like, okay, we have up and comers, but we're just going to mix them in with the Cesaros and Alicia Foxes and like Sin Caras or whatever, Hunicos and Camachos and kind of intermix, create our own people, but intermix. But then there was a dividing line where it was just like, all right, it's just upcoming talent only, upcoming and new signings only. We're not kind of crossing the two. But ever since then, it's like the tag team division is just amazing. Who did the Vaudevillains beat at Brooklyn to win? Blake and Murphy. So it kind of started with Blake and Murphy because I think they were the ones that beat the Lucha Dragons, and Lucha Dragons beat the Ascension, who beat, I guess, Graves and Neville before that. I can't believe I just recited the whole NXT tag team history, but that's
pretty amazing. Way to go.
Well, I mean, listen, it's the Wyatt family before that, and it's Neville and Neville and that other English guy that lasted like one day.
Yeah.
But with the initial champions. But I mean, it's so good. So yeah, you give a shout out to them. I'm going to give a shout out to them, to Gargano and Ciampa, and to like whoever was the brainchild behind putting importance in not only just the tag team division, but in every single aspect, every single layer of feud in NXT and the TV show and the main live specials that they do and the tapings for the live specials. It's just so entertaining and so well done. And I had a thought while watching NXT today, Duke, and let's just talk about that before we move on to Raw. So we might as well just kind of lump it all in. I was watching the taping, and we know that this took place, like a week before I was watching it, but days before we were watching it on Wednesday night if we watched it at the normal time. And I'm like, man, if they did NXT tapings before Raw, before SmackDown, I would absolutely probably sour on the product. But since they do special NXT tapings and they have their own tour and buildings and events, and they don't piggyback off of Raw and SmackDown, the crowd is NXT crowd. They're not like bring your kids and family, Raw's coming into town kind of crowd. Where, like, I tell you this all the time, where, like, you feel like the cruiserweight division loses steam, the women lose steam, because that crowd's basically so socially tuned out in those matches. NXT fans want to be there and be a part of the show and absolutely love the wrestling for what it is, because it's kind of like the best wrestling there, on the planet. Even though it's taped, I think if it was taped the same way before Raw, I think I would hate the product. Not hate the product, but I don't think I'd love it as much as I do. What would you think if they moved the tapings to piggyback off of Raw and SmackDown?
Well, when's the last time you watched Main Event or Superstars?
I was hoping you said that, because that was exactly my point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then SmackDown, when SmackDown wasn't live, how many people actually really watch SmackDown?
Very well. That's what's so funny. I see
it's
people,
a little different, but I mean, it's like its own universe is what I mean.
No, yeah, I get what you're
universe.
saying. Yeah. But what's funny is I see so many people talking about how great SmackDown is now and so on and so forth. And I'm just like, well, when it was pre-recorded, yeah, it was just sort of a rehash of Raw, but it was actually we said it back then.
Many times.
It was a better show than Raw.
Take away the 45 minutes they spent recapping Raw.
Sure.
And it was a great show.
Yeah, it was good. It was better wrestling and more actual wrestling. I mean, I would say there's less actual wrestling on SmackDown overall than there used to be when it was pre-recorded. It seems to me, but then you take into account the recaps. Maybe not. Maybe it's about the same. It's just distributed
normally, yes. I would say normally there's like 3 matches in 2 hours. This week there were 5 matches and like the tag team match with like multiple matches within the match.
Right.
So this week we had a lot.
There was a lot more. I guess that's what kind of started flavoring my opinion on that. But yeah, it's you're right. Yeah, it would be pretty messed up, and the best example of that is Main Event and Superstars. I mean, there's a lot of production problems with Main Event and Superstars too. In that, or I don't know if production's the right word for it, but timing or something. I don't know what word you want to use, but essentially the fact that Hulu has it exclusively for
it's not produced
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's not produced as a TV production. It's produced as a video on demand production.
Well, I guess Hulu, my thing is the only place you see it, if you don't have Hulu, you see it through WWE Network or you see it through illegal streaming sites. If you watch it through WWE's product, which this is, I mean, I could soapbox on this all day when it comes to Raw and SmackDown too, but you're 3 to 4 weeks removed from whatever storyline they're trying to supplement with Main Event and Superstars matches.
Superstars is first aired on WWE Network on Fridays.
Oh, it is.
Well, I believe so. It's just Main Event.
Then it's Main Event. Okay.
Main Event and Raw and SmackDown, I think, have to wait those few weeks before they go on the network. But I think Superstars is first run on Friday nights.
I didn't realize it was. I see.
Well, I mean, that's more already to the point, like where the shows don't matter, so we don't even care to know.
Yeah, that's true.
I
guess what happened. What made me think about that the most was someone was talking about an episode of Main Event a while back that sounded hilarious. And they even had like animated. I don't want to say it. GIFs. I know that's technically
GIF.
Yeah. GIF. Anyway,
that's
another
GIF
soapbox. I say GIF, but anyway, people had something from a match, and I'm like, where is this? I can't find it. Oh, it's on Hulu. So anyway, I'm sorry for that ridiculous bunny trail. Back to what you were talking about, NXT was great this week because it was recorded special, during the Takeover weekend. So, or the same day as Takeover. I don't know if they do an intermission and then record them or how they do it, but
I think they did the show first.
Oh yeah,
like doors open at 5 p.m. and then they do this show.
Oh, gotcha.
Then they do the special afterwards.
So it's the warm up.
Well, that's the whole thing with Brooklyn a couple years ago, where I was like, Charlotte's not on the show. You're like, yes, she is, and you put up a flyer. And the flyer was advertising the Becky versus Emma versus Charlotte versus Dana Brooke match. I forget. I think those were the 4 involved in it. I'm like, dude, look at the time, man. That's like doors open at 5 o'clock. That's not on the main show. And then it turns out, like when we saw the TV show, like we saw all those matches on the TV show. And I think that was even like a 2-hour NXT or an hour and a half. It was recap and matches. But like you look at look at NXT this week, Swan versus Reeves, interrupted by Sanity, and then Sanity fighting No Way Jose, and then the 6-woman match, Daria being the 6th woman in that match. So I did lump her into my mass predictions of who it could be. I would have even had her in the picture for the show, except I couldn't find the transparency behind her, and I didn't feel like working with it in Photoshop, so I just used Eva Marie instead. But I think that was good as well, because now it gives Billie Kay and Peyton Royce can now be fighting Daria because they turned her back. But you take that show, is my point, and you put it in front of a Raw crowd who's there to see Roman Reigns, or a SmackDown crowd that's there to see Ambrose and Cena and AJ Styles, and man, I think that show falls flat on its face, and not because of what's in the ring.
Yeah,
and I hope it never and that's where I get scared when NXT starts doing this touring and stuff. That now it's going to become, and don't want to say trendy, but it's going to become like what ECW became when ECW started going across the Mississippi and started going, nationally all over the United States on the TNN network and all that. Is your crowd, they're not the ECW hot crowd anymore, and like production falls flat because of it, because it's like bad crowd is bad crowd. Even if the match is good in the ring, if the crowd's not reacting to it, you kind of like, man, I guess the match, like, you don't think the match sucks, but you kind of feel like it does. And I don't know if I can explain it, but we talk about it during the bad weeks on Raw, where the crowd's just dead on their hands. And we're like, well, that Sasha Charlotte was a pretty good match. Like, I don't know why everyone was chanting CM Punk, kind of stuff.
Or JBL.
Or JBL, or Macho Man for some reason. That was a thing at one time.
That was weird.
So it's good stuff. So let's talk about Raw and SmackDown real quick, so we can both not feeling good. So let's on Raw. Raw lost. Yeah. Stephanie McMahon said heads would be on the line, and no heads were on the line.
Yep, typical.
So there was no repercussions to that. I'm sick of the whole, like, every time Charlotte does something, we're gonna bow to the Queen the next day. Like, it just means nothing. All it means is she's gonna have her microphone and someone's gonna interrupt her.
I mean, well, and for months now, all it means is Sasha's gonna interrupt her. Even though, how many times does Sasha have to get beat? But guess what? They're gonna fight again for the title next week in Charlotte, which is on Raw. So what does that typically mean?
Normally means Sasha's going to win. And then I guess on Roadblock, since it's a pay-per-view, then Charlotte's going to win on the back. And I wouldn't mind, except for the fact that, I don't think those kind of things work anymore in this day and age. Like, they're not working for me. Like, the whole, because the matches are not bad. It's just, I want to see variety. I mean, how many other people do you have on the on the main roster? You have a bunch, and I don't care if it's Charlotte versus Alicia Fox on a pay-per-view. Like, if we want to just be unfair to Alicia Fox and say she's the lowest on the totem pole, I don't mind that, because know what it means.
She's not, because she's actually been on TV.
Yeah, well, it means
there's
variety.
Summer Rae.
Yeah, well, Summer Rae's hurt allegedly too.
Is she? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Been battling something, but she's been doing a lot of PR for WWE overseas.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that's what's been weird is I'm like, I keep seeing her doing stuff for WWE, but you never actually see her on TV. It's been strange. So
from the last thing from the last thing I read, she finally admitted to being hurt because she was kind of what's the word? Like, not owning up to it. What's that word when you're kind of hiding something and you don't want to admit it to yourself? There's a certain term for it, but that's kind of what it was. And she finally broke down in one interview and said, "Hey, listen, I've been dealing with this. I've been trying, like, on the verge of getting better, but I never wanted to know, really own up to the fact that I'm hurt, but I'm hurt." And that's kind of what it was. So,
own up. That's what you meant. That you got it.
Own up. No, it's like you're hiding something and you don't want to admit it. And that's basically the definition of the word I'm thinking of, but whatever. It'll come to me. Rich Swann being the number one contender. Here's what I worry about. Rich Swann being the number one contender to fight now Kendrick at, I always want to call it like 501 live, but 205 live.
Yep.
Are they going to do this whole like Swann was attacked by Sanity and now Swann's going to be like holding his ribs the whole match against I don't
like that at all.
I hate that. I really do. But they set the seed for it. Last time we saw Rich Swann was on a taping of whatever before he won the number one contenders match, and now he's going to sell an injury that happened before he even wrestled that match. I hate when they do things like that. Yeah. Best part about Raw, Duke, for you?
Seriously, Owens and Jericho.
100% Owens and Jericho.
I mean, I was watching people
they got me.
No.
They got me.
They got who
until
did they not get?
Smart fan until the end when they're like, I know who's doing. They're both like saying, I know who's to blame. I know who's to blame. I was like, all right, here it comes, Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm like, oh, thank God.
And what was so funny, it was like, it was such smart bait, like in every single way. It was just like, oh my God, why are they going to break them up now? What's going on? Wait, they're doing what's going on? Hang on. Oh, that's hilarious. I can't believe they did that. Wow, that's funny. And what's crazy about that to me,
dude, just make up with him. Say you're sorry. Just like I saw him yelling at the TV. Just say you're
sorry. Exactly. Kiss. Can they kiss? But
it's like a soap opera. You don't want to see the two break up. And
yeah, they almost did. Like if after like the fallout after the big Roman Reigns line, Jericho actually kind of went in for a kiss and Owens kind of patted him on the chest like, it's okay, buddy. Yeah, we're good.
On the same line, when we were talking about best moments from Survivor Series, them too with Todd Phillips before the show even aired, doing the whole
Todd Phillips.
Todd Phillips. What did I say?
You said Todd. You said Todd. It's
Phil Phillips.
Yeah, Felipe.
How did you watch that, by the way?
Yeah, it was
okay.
Great.
Best part about that when he's like, we're having a no Tom party and you're not invited, but your name's Phil, so you are invited. Like he messed up by calling him by his real name, and then it's like, all right, well, I got to turn this insult around and say, but you are invited because your name's not Tom.
but you still can't come. I love that. So what I was getting around to was with all of that happened with the Roman Reigns thing, it shows that WWE is at least self-aware now, that they're not just ignoring the issue with Reigns. Like for them to have a segment where he's the butt of the joke for your essentially your most entertaining act on the entire show, and what has kind of become the sort of the lifesaver of the show in a lot of ways, Owens and Jericho, for Roman Reigns to be the joke of that segment, that's a significant step, in my opinion, for WWE.
You can look at that two ways. One being that he wasn't the butt of the joke, except it was more like Owens and Jericho trolling the trolls, trolling the crowd.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's their character. The second part of it is he has to be the butt of the joke because that's who Owens is fighting at Roadblock.
Yeah.
So what were they going to do? They were going to blame it on Braun Strowman? Probably not.
Fair enough.
Seth Rollins came to the defense, though. What did Roman Reigns do on Raw? And this is a legitimate question because I don't even remember. Was he even there? Did he even come out?
Yeah, he showed up, and they banned him from ring. That was
okay.
This week,
right? That's right. They banned him and
he actually stayed out, which I assume that he showed up for the dark match after they went off air. Or dark segment if there was.
Again, he probably was banged up from Survivor Series the day before.
Yeah,
so that's probably why he didn't work.
Yeah,
technically,
right.
But yeah.
I mean,
he
still hit a spear, but yeah, that was probably.
I blocked it from my mind.
That was probably all he got for the night because, yeah, I mean, God, man, I still can't. Like every time I see it in my head, it just looks ugly in every way.
Enzo Amore naked.
It's pretty messed up.
Next to Lana, be like, "How you doing?"
Yeah, it's pretty messed
up.
And
then Rusev comes in. I mean, anytime Rusev's involved in that, I'm gonna yell at somebody. Segment. Like I love Rusev a little bit more. Yeah. I really do. Like he's so good. I still want that show where he's just sitting on the side of a busy city and just yelling at people. Or he puts on like a traffic thing, puts on the gloves and directs traffic and just starts yelling.
Starts screaming Machka at people.
Yeah. Oh my God. So good. But
he whistles at first and then he spits out the whistle and just starts screaming Machka. That'd be amazing.
Are we bored of New Day yet?
I think everybody is, and I almost think that's by design. It's starting to feel by design at this point. So
what's the design to get them through to the new record to beat Demolition, and then just to have them lose the title on some random event?
Well, so. There's two ways to play this. Either the Revival show up and beat them, and
why would we think? Okay,
hang on, wait. Let me get it. Let me end it, and then you can piggyback off. Either the Revival show up and they beat them before they beat the record, which would mean it would have to happen in the next 2 weeks, or Cesaro and Sheamus go over them after they break the record. So you have a modern day tag team in the record books, but then you have the new baby faces take it off the guys that are actually starting to turn the crowd against them. Because I don't know if you caught it on Raw. The crowd was almost 50-50. New Day sucks. New Day rocks. It was coming through
Canada, so
I'm not true. I'm not true.
Like not because they're Canadians is not. I'm not attacking Canadians, but like things were always backwards in Canada. So like,
wow,
they took to the other nationalities more than they took to the Americans. They took to the Swiss guy and the Irish guy.
That's true. But
plays against the United States for the most part when they can, especially when it comes to tag teams or your heavyweight champion and stuff like that. Here's my question to you, though. All fairness, all honesty, no troll. Why does it always have to be the alleged call up from NXT coming to take the title off of the current champion? Like, what makes Revival that team and not the club or not anybody else who's already been established and has the history in WWE?
No, you're right. What makes it that at this point is the Revival want to be hated, and how much better can you be hated by stopping someone from breaking such a monumental, significant record? And they keep playing up the record over and over and over and over again. And so that's why I was saying it's either this or that. It's either they just keep reminding people of the record because WWE thinks their audience is stupid, which it's highly likely it's that one. And then you'll just have some new baby faces a la Cesaro and Sheamus take it off of them after the record is broken, or right before the record is broken, you have someone be good heels, significant heels who make an impact, or
GB good bad guys.
Good brothers, you mean?
No, good brothers. Sorry.
Yeah. Or you. I mean, and yeah, Gallows and Anderson. It makes sense. And hey, they're supposed to have their match again next week, right? For the 100th time. So maybe that's how you actually establish the club as a significant heel team by having them beat New Day next week.
They don't destroy the Cinderella story, but they destroy the record because nobody really wants to see the no-hitter broken up unless it's like your team getting no hit.
Yeah, and that definitely gets them over as a heel team at that point,
right? And you keep mentioning the record, so like the record now feels significant, so that if somebody stops the record, well, it's like that sucks.
Yeah, you're those guys that You're those guys that stop something that can't happen now for another 450 days. And I mean, that's a big deal.
It is. And just to contradict myself.
Sure.
If the Revival were to take the titles off of somebody and legitimately gain heat, well, what's bigger heat than making Heath Slater sell his pool and his double wide and retiring Rhino?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true too. Yeah.
And I think
and getting there before American and somehow
getting the title before American
Alpha. Stepping in front of American Alpha, keeping them from it yet again.
WrestleMania Revival versus American Alpha, I think, would be the showstopper, the show stealer.
I think it would mess people up how good it would how I think it would
unexpectedly good it would be because people don't really realize how good these two teams are. If you're just watching, and I always draw that line in the sand that say NXT people watch NXT and Raw users barely watch NXT and or main roster watchers. And I think that that would put both of them on the map. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And on SmackDown, I guess James Ellsworth is 3-0 against AJ Styles.
How about AJ with that foot in the rope spot? How smooth is this guy? I remember going. I said out loud when he got his foot stuck in the rope. The guy's a magician. He's literally a magician. He's a wrestling magician.
When that happened, I'm like, all right, he just hit him with a super kick. And then they showed a shot of his foot in the ropes, and I'm like, how the hell did they do that? Because I was under the assumption that AJ came fully into the ring. And then I'm like, all right, he got kicked and he just put his foot on the middle rope and then just kind of just pulled down and kind of hooked it under. But he wrapped up his foot as he got kicked. Yeah. So he can easily pull that off. And
he literally, my God. Yeah. He's a magician.
You can see him do something like that. And you can see somebody not even run to the corner correctly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it just shows you the level of difference there is between an AJ Styles and someone in NXT who can't run the ropes.
Yeah.
And it shows in their match.
Well, and this is 2 nights after that nasty over the top rope spill he took from Braun, which I think was,
and he took another nasty over the top rope spill off the ladder too.
Yeah.
He went
through a freaking table. you know, it's just this guy takes all these insane bumps and he just keeps on ticking and making it look easy over and over and over again.
One of my favorite underrated part of SmackDown was Dean Ambrose's stuff in and out, because I love stuff like that. The comedy, he gets kicked out of the building, all of a sudden he sidles up right next to the guy again. It's hey, what's going on? But when Becky's I'm gonna, whatever, pizza her ass or whatever she said about Natalya.
Yeah. I heard it.
She's
loved it.
Yeah. And Dean's heard it, loved it. Man, don't you want to know why I'm the Mountie? No? Okay. I'll tell you next week. Well, I want to know right now. Why are you the Mountie?
And just remember, and they both start cracking up.
Yeah,
the Mountie always gets his man.
That's my favorite part of wrestling right there. All that is my favorite part of wrestling, when you have that interaction between people. And just the comedy of that and the timing, and it even meshed with Bryan Daniel, who I don't really specifically put in that mold of comedy, even though he had that stuff with Kane.
Yeah, but he's
awkward at times.
And his character totally fit that moment where Dean sort of chuckled a little bit and then went into the catchphrase. And it just made sense for Daniel to just do the biggest facepalm in wrestling history and just not be able to finish the segment. It just made sense.
So I had 2 schools of thought about the ending of that match. And one of them was going to be Dean was going to be under the ring and hold AJ Styles' leg
the Strowman spot again?
The Strowman spot again. 2, after the Mountie, I thought the shock stick was going to play a part. And Ambrose was going to tase AJ Styles, probably something they would never do.
Right.
But that was just in my mind from that. I was not expecting the whole Dean Ambrose getting taken out and Ellsworth winning on his own ending. But I guess that's going to set up the future match for the because he won that one legit, quote unquote. So that's going to set up the future match for him. against AJ Styles. And it's kind of like, now it's kind of, well, now it's not corny, but it's still, he's still your comedy, but he's still the hottest thing they're doing right now. Crowd loves it.
Yeah.
And you can't deny that. I don't care how many people sour on James Ellsworth, the business people, the guys who lived and breathed wrestling 20 years ago. I don't care what they have to say. I'm watching the fans' reactions and my reaction on the couch. And I'm going, my God, this guy doesn't deserve to be there. But he kind of does, because he's working at the moment. And meanwhile, like Roman Reigns, we can say Roman Reigns paid his dues in some ways. He was born into it, but he did do the proper training and everything. He didn't do, I don't believe he did the circuit like Cesaro or Owens or anybody else did. But fans don't want to see him wrestle. So why are we down on James Ellsworth and we're not down on Roman Reigns having a contract? And that's what I don't get. I mean, listen, don't take that the wrong way, Duke. I'm not souring on Roman Reigns. I'm just drawing the parallel between guy who paid his dues and guy who technically didn't pay his dues.
I get it.
One getting a reaction and one getting a negative reaction.
Yeah, not the reaction you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, I get it. And I think people do the thing that probably bothers me the most with what people are saying or not saying about the Ellsworth stuff is, I heard an interview with someone from the Raw roster the other day, and they acted like they didn't know anything that was going on with this guy. And I'm like, it reminded me of, did you ever see the first Unfiltered episode with Seth Rollins?
A little bit of it.
Okay, so
when they were eating in the restaurant.
Yeah, yeah. And he talks about, he referred to something from the recent Austin podcast on that. Who was it? It was
probably,
it was either Austin. I mean, that was a little while back. So it may have been
probably Vince or Triple H.
I think it was the Triple H one. I think it was either, I don't know. It was one of those two. And he made a reference to, man, I just can't believe people, like, I can't believe people are in our locker room and they don't watch that kind of stuff. Like, it's on our network. It's our product. And I'll start talking about something from that podcast and people won't have a clue what I'm talking about. It's just like that. It's like that kind of grinds my gears. And I'm probably embellishing it a little bit, but that's essentially what he said. And so I take that back to the point I was getting to. I heard someone on the Raw roster, like, not even know James Ellsworth's name and act like he's just like this, like they're like, man, what's going on over there? And it's just like, what do you mean what's going on over there? Like, you should be talking about this like, yeah, it's a phenomenon. Like, you should be talking about it like, and I'm not trying to inflate our egos too much, but someone from Raw should be talking about James Ellsworth like Larry and Duke talk about James Ellsworth.
Or go to the reverse and heel out on SmackDown
and character it. Yeah, exactly. But this was
like be ignorant, like, I don't know who that is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're trying to say is
yeah. And it was just, it was really off-putting, and that entire interview kind of was off-putting, and I'll tell you who it was afterward. But it was The entire interview was off-putting, but that was like something I'm just like, man, how are you not paying it? Like, that's your product. Yes, you're not on that show, but that's your product. How are you? And like, a lot of times the SmackDown people are at Raw or at the Raw show, or the Raw people are at the SmackDown show because they'll put it on their Instagram or whatever. Yet they don't really know what's going on with essentially the main event storyline of that show. That's kind of messed up. So anyway, just kind of piggybacking off of what you said with industry vets kind of getting a little pissy about it. What was more annoying to me was someone who was just like kind of clueless of it, and they're part of the roster. That's
they're
mind-boggling
not the 20-year
to
vet
me.
that's sour about how the business is now and how they think it should be. They're somebody who's in virtually the same locker room as the person.
Yeah,
except on opposite shows. Little difference here. There have been like that one character that has broken out that really shouldn't be over the years. 1-2-3 Kid or Lightning Kid, 1-2-3 Kid. Waltman, X-Pac, whatever you want to call him. Gilbert was kind of like a phenomenon. He just like the parody of Goldberg or whatever, and he was pretty big, but that wouldn't have worked in this situation. And it's like Ambrose should get a lot of credit in selling of James Ellsworth, but Ellsworth already established himself before Ambrose put him under his arm and said, "This is my guy." With the whole like the two fist things with Braun Strowman.
Any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
Right, and the whole setup of no one in the back cares to be AJ Styles' partner. So then Daniel Bryan just teams him up with Ellsworth. Like that whole skit right there was like the setup. And without that skit, there was no like, here's your surprise opponent. You know what I mean? With the first match between AJ Styles and him. So he's like, I think maybe if you want to question him paying his dues, okay, fine. Maybe he never had an opportunity to pay his dues, but when the camera's on, like he has like delivered in that overselling kind of way that's suitable to the character they want to portray him as. And it's like all perfect.
Well, and let's go back to, like we said this, 2 weeks ago? We've probably said it multiple times now. He fits the story they're trying to tell. And he keeps us from seeing a big complaint that we always have. Ambrose and AJ in 18 different variations of their match.
Well, now we're getting Ellsworth versus Styles, but that's a different story.
But it's a stall. You know what I'm saying? It's a stall.
It's keeping the main feud fresh.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, it's still like when you really take a step back and you look at the overall arc, ultimately it's still AJ versus Ambrose, but it's a stall on them having to be in the ring together all the freaking time, and it gives Dean a chance to distribute some comeuppance on occasion, and it gives AJ a chance to fight dirty all the time, pretty much. So actually get reactions from it, because there's this sympathetic, worm of a guy in the ring that everybody is behind.
So basically what you're saying is that Ellsworth is a contracted WWE employee, that Ellsworth and Styles are going to do the swerve on Ambrose and beat him up in that championship match.
Actually, I was going to call that we're actually going to see a double turn, and I believe Ambrose is going to. I'm going to call the unthinkable, and I'm going to say calling it early. Yeah, calling it early and calling the unthinkable. Ambrose is actually going to get fed up with something that Ellsworth does, because they've already planted the seeds for that, and Ellsworth or Ambrose is actually going to finally heel out, and AJ, because you can do that, because he can be what AJ is now, but I think he can get more boos than AJ can. I mean, AJ's still getting AJ Styles chance every time he starts a match, and Ambrose doesn't. He gets the biggest pops of the night a lot of times, but
there's no real chant in his favor.
But so he's not really getting constant crowd support. So I think you can flip their positions a little bit, and then AJ ends up being the reluctant good guy, and Ambrose ends up being the bad guy that everyone actually wants to boo. And he does it well.
Well, if you make that flip, then what's on the horizon for either man? Like, what are you setting up?
I don't know yet. I just think it's essentially, where does this Ellsworth thing go is what I was getting at, and it's that they swerve it a little bit where, God, I got to stop using that word so much, but they tilt it a little bit to where Ambrose is actually the bad guy instead of AJ, and most people are probably expecting Ellsworth to finally move over to the dark side.
And who the hell says any of them have to? You know what I mean?
That's absolutely true.
And history dictates they will, But like, you know, it's the same thing with Owens and Jericho. Like, can we stop looking for the heel turn?
Yeah.
And then just like kind of enjoy what we have going, because they're the better things of both shows. Flipping AJ though doesn't let the Undertaker take the title off of him.
Good point. And that's probably going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we can wrap this up if you don't have anything more to say.
No. Go ahead.
So what I just want to know is, last thing here is that, you know, talking about people fighting each other, let's talk about The Miz and Ziggler fighting each other.
Good morning,
again.
good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm the Duke, and I think Larry just passed out for my interruption. So, Steve Blackman,